Hi. I recently read something that was so simple, so helpful, so awesome. And you're probably here because you originally probably watched my The Codependent, The Narcissist, and the Empath Who's What video. And this is a little bit of piggybacking off of that, except obviously that was about my take on the energetic dynamics of those things. But just hear this, okay? This is this one sweet little sentence that I read in an article a few months ago. And I've been pondering it ever since. And I've now met many codependents who have come to me because of a narcissistic smear campaign and it's funny, I wrote about that in my book, but I've had so many people come to me, and that's why I felt actually free to normalize it in my book, because a lot of people are told by the narcissists in their life that they are narcissistic, that they are selfish, that they are, the problem. And if you're a codependent, you're going to believe that. If you're a narcissist, you're like, that's bullshit. I'm not the problem, right? But if you're a codependent, you're going to be banging your head against the wall going, what can I do to be better? And how am I a narcissist? Oh my God, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am the narcissist. So and I always say, right, my work is in the polarization of those two realities that go on within oneself. And I would encourage you to read Earn Your Luck, a field guide for living beyond your narcissistic parents' wildest dreams, because I see it in a very particular way as far as coming to center on that polarization. And I want to just drop this sentence for you, because it goes like this. Every narcissist is a codependent, but not every codependent is a narcissist. I'm going to say it again. Every narcissist is a codependent, but not every codependent is a narcissist. How does one conceptualize that, right? How can a narcissist really be a codependent? Well, of course they're codependent because they have an image disorder, right? They're very stuck. They require you to validate their image. And a codependent requires somebody else to validate their existence. So they're both theoretical, distorted views of self. So in thinking, am I the narcissist? Or am I the codependent? And what's going on here? And is it possible that both of us can be codependent or both of us narcissists? There's also research out there that says a lot of people will match, if you're in a relationship with somebody, they will probably match your level of narcissism. There's that out there, but then there's other research that suggests that if you're with a narcissist, you're very likely more likely to be codependent. And then I personally believe that if you are a codependent in a relationship with another codependent, this is my own personal view and experience and belief, and what I see is that you will polarize to one side or the other, because it's like the masculine feminine concept. It's in relationships, one person's kind of going to take that polarity. So if you're both codependent, one of you might actually present more like a narcissist, because that fits the safety of what your particular system now can do for you, basically. So obviously we choose safer environments when we're adults to work out our unsafe environments from when we're children. And if it's more appropriate for you to become more narcissistic in this dynamic and your partner will allow that, then that's what's going to happen. And if it's more appropriate for them to become narcissistic, that's going to happen. But either way, those polarities are going to play out if you're both codependent, because that's what you're used to. And because when you're a codependent, you will shift to make the system even, right? So we want to take that ability to shift and make systems even into our own system, our own inner system. So the difference primarily, and then there's other research that will say, well, if you are a codependent, that means you're not narcissistic, right? But how is it that if you're a narcissist, you can be codependent? But it makes perfect sense, because a narcissist is going to be antagonistic. They're going to be willing to exploit, even if they're not actively doing it. They're going to really care about status and stuff. And you can care about stuff and you can care about your reputation, but a narcissist that's going to be the priority. You will not be the priority. Where in a codependent, the person will be the priority that you're with, right? Like, you're going to prioritize the people in your life and the relationships in your life. And you're not going to be a person who would even call somebody a narcissist. Likely. I mean, if it's like there and then you could get healthy enough to see it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, whoa, what? But you're not going to be running around saying like, this is what you are and this is what you are, you know, like that's just not going to be, a codependent isn't going to feel so, unless you're you're a healthy enough codependent to be in a situation where you actually can stand for yourself and be like, no, dude, that's you, not me. That's different. But for the most part, a codependent's never going to be willing to explore anybody, even the people who have exploited them, right? They're not going to be the people going around telling like stories about other people that aren't true and being antagonistic. They're not going to be very projective constantly like a narcissist will. And I'm not saying that that's not, we're all projecting, right? That we can't really get away from that in relationships, but a narcissist is going to be obviously projecting and intentionally manipulating. It's not going to be this passive, like I wasn't taught any different, so I'm like kind of just doing what I was taught. It's going to be obvious that they have an agenda. Like there's an agenda behind there that a codependent just isn't going to have. The codependent's agenda is like, how can I serve this situation? Like, please just give me a direction and I'll go. I just don't know what to do here. But the narcissist has an agenda that really isn't going to have anything to do with a codependent other than that they can come along for the ride so that the narcissist can meet their agenda, right? But the codependent is somebody who is, you know, we need them to validate our existence. They need us to validate their image. So it makes perfect sense to me that a narcissist is always a codependent. And I think that was where I came to this work, because I would always look at and I would always see both in my mom. And I was always so confused by that. And then I'm like, I share on here, like when I come to these little awarenesses where I'm like, okay, it's borderline. It's got to be borderline personality. It's got to be because she was raised by a sociopath and a codependent. It's got to be blah, 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 blah. But I always saw those two polarities at work in my mother. And it makes so much more sense to me now when I can say, okay, like I don't have to keep looking for who's a codependent, who's a narcissist. I have to look for who's being exploitive, antagonistic, projective, and harmful. And if you're not doing that with an agenda to do that, if you're not doing that with like, and maybe narcissists don't know that they have the agenda, but I have a feeling that they do. That's just like as a more healthy person, I have a feeling that they actually do know that they have an agenda and do know that they don't really care how you fit into that agenda as long as you fit in the way that they want you to fit in. And that really has nothing to do with you. But if you're a person who prioritizes relationships, you can just stop that thought of, am I really the narcissist here, right? Because you're allowed to take up space in a relationship. You're allowed to want your self-energy to be forefront in your relationship. And a lot of codependents are like, well, if I share myself and if I talk about myself and if I come to center, then I'm going to be a narcissist. Congratulations, that's part of the healing work, right? Coming to center, coming out, doing all of those things that you've been taught make you a selfish, narcissistic asshole. That's literally the medicine, right? So if you aren't a person who's going to be, especially when you're in your actual like straight up codependent, like can't see beyond that phase, if you're not exploitative of other people and you genuinely value relationships, you can just let yourself off the hook about this. Am I really what they say they am? Am I really what they say I am? Right? You can just let yourself off the hook, because you wouldn't be able to relate to a narcissist codependently if they weren't riding the frequency of codependency, right? So they depend on us because they need the fuel to feel good about their own image. And we depend on them to feel like we're good enough people to exist on the planet by saving them from themselves. Every narcissist is a codependent. Not every codependent is a narcissist. You can let yourself off the hook, Or you can put yourself on the hook if you have serious narcissistic traits. I mean, we all have both sides, especially if you were raised by a narcissist and a codependent. But if you polarize to one side because you were taught there's no room for you in narcissism when you're a kid, when you're going through a phase where you literally should be the center of that family's universe, but you never got to be, and you polarize toward the only way to be loved is to negate myself constantly, and you're a codependent, you could have polarized toward narcissism too. Like, okay, well, because you guys were all narcissistic, I'm going to be narcissistic. I didn't polarize that way. I polarized the other way. And to come to center for me, I had to start relating to myself, taking up space more. And for somebody who polarized to the other side, you'd have to relate to other people taking up space more, right? Like, we all, in a normal, healthy system, have these parts. They're just not so the only parts that we can see, right? Everybody has narcissistic and codependent parts, but if you're a genuine codependent, you can only see from this perspective, and it's like you have a lot of other parts in there and under there that have nothing to do with codependency and narcissism. But when you learned to relate that way just to get by and to survive when you were a kid, your survival mechanisms are those two ways of relating. So coming to center for you is going to be taking up space, and it's going to be realizing like, oh, I'm realizing I'm depending on basically saving you to, I'm depending on your happiness to make me happy. If I can build you up, then I know that I'm a good person. That is some serious codependent shit. And we have to build ourselves up before we can build other people up. Something I'm really coming to now as a 37-year-old person who spent my whole life, like, I've let people live with me my whole life who were never going to reciprocate what that actually was. I've let people just walk all over me in many ways. I bridge people connections constantly, and I don't think twice about it. I don't really want credit for the things that I do with people, because I just want to live in a world where everybody loves each other, because that's a safer world to live in, right? It's a safer world when people know what it feels like to love. And I want to be a part of everybody feeling that way, because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel safe. I want credit for that. I want the world that is the result of that. And being a person who now realizes, oh my God, if I would have spent all those years, because I had kids young, and I went to college, I bought a house super young, I had an escapist mind where I had to constantly get out, but I had zero self-respect, like zero. I built up everybody in my life and watched them have amazing lives while I never built a real actual foundation, a solid foundation for myself. And that leads to one place, and it is resentment. And that is also the thing that fosters codependency, right? Because we're secretly doing and doing and doing, and then resentful that we're doing, and we're doing even more than what's asked, and then we're resentful that we're not seen for what is not even asked for. And that just creates all these crazy distortions. So we have to build ourselves before we can build all of the people around us, because it leaves us super lonely. And then when you're left actually alone, your foundation's rocked and you haven't built for yourself while you watch all those people that you built all those years go live amazing lives. We have to come to center and put ourselves there in the center of our own world and our own universe. That does not make you narcissistic. That makes you normal. That makes you a normal person. Just so weird. It's a really weird concept, I know, but it's true. Okay, I hope this made sense for you. I hope it was really helpful for you. If you dig my content, please subscribe, like this. If you want to dig in deeper, I have a course called Soul Centering After Toxic Shame that you can check out on my website. And please buy Imperfectly Sane and Earn Your Luck, because first and foremost, I am a writer. And if I could get away with only doing that, that is only and exactly what I would do for the rest of my life. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.